Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. We are the Thursday right before Thanksgiving here in November. So this is November 18th. Let me go over just a couple of quick things. I believe we've got all of our role assignments taken care of, and we've got everybody here. Everybody should have their goals if they're going to be an evaluator. I'm going to be your meeting facilitator if you have any issues. My name is, of course, Mark Schroeder, as you can see in the window. We are recording this meeting. If you need any navigation hints, make sure that you put the cursor over the individual little video screens that you see of each of the people. You'll notice there's a ... to be able to pin people, particularly the timer. If you have a speaking role and are interested in watching your timer, that is also a place that you can easily mute yourself or change and turn your camera off and on as well, I believe. A little bit about the agenda. So let me go ahead and do a share real quick. All right. This is, of course, our website, DallasSocialToastmasters.com. If you go to the rightmost column, the members section, you will also see a link for the current agenda. If you click on that, it will open in its own tab, which I have open right here. That is the easiest way to get to a copy of our agenda for this evening. And of course, if you want to follow along with all the roles, know what the theme is, this is one of the best places to go to look for that. With that, I think I've got all of the business that we need to cover beforehand out of the way. One other quick note, for some of you at least, if you're on a PC or a Mac, there is a good chance if you are on mute and need to get off of mute quickly rather than trying to hunt and peck with the mouse, you may find that just hitting the space bar and holding it will unmute you temporarily. And you should stay unmuted if you hold the space bar. If that doesn't work, I believe Alt. It was Alt in the space bar, correct, Rob?
Alt-A.
Alt-A, which those are both left-handed things. So Alt-A is another shortcut if you can't get to the mouse button and get it over the mute button fast enough. All right, with that, let me go ahead and introduce our Toastmaster for the evening. Our Toastmaster for the evening, of course, is, and doing invocation and pledge, is going to be Rob Giles. Rob, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator. Tonight's theme, as you saw when Mark showed the agenda, is cool Echo features. And that's in regard to the Amazon Echo, or the Amazon Echo Show, or the Amazon Echo Dot. And the list continues to grow as they continue to bring up and introduce new items in their Echo line. And most people refer to these as Alexas. And for good reason. It is one of the wake words, the main wake word that you'll use in order to awaken your Echo, whatever it might be. You can also change those. And that's one of the features that they currently have with the Echoes, that currently there's 4 choices for most of the actual Echo products. And that's Alexa is one. So you can change the wake word from that to computer, which you will hear shortly, because
Here's Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd on Amazon Music.
Stop that. Computer stop. So that's what you'll get, and what we're trying to avoid with what Mark was saying. But there's 2 other wake words that you can use with your Echo Dot or your Echo or any of your Echo products, and that is Amazon, and also, what was the 4th one? So we have, you can actually use Echo. So it's Alexa, Echo, Amazon, and the other one, which is computer. So these are wake words. That's what the product is waiting to hear, and then they'll listen for you and give you feedback on whatever you're looking for feedback on. One feature that I love that a lot of people may not know of, it's a simple one, but it's something that's really handy if you have a household of more than one person, specifically families, where you have possibly Echo products in different rooms. A few years back, I gave some Echo Dots to my sister's family in hopes that they would use this particular feature. And what it is an announcement. And you can make an announcement from one Echo product, and it will go to all of the Echo products that are in the household. For example, if I say, computer, make an announcement.
What's the announcement?
Tell everybody that Dallas Social Toastmasters is about to start.
Announcing.
Tell everybody that Dallas Social Toastmasters is about to start. And you'll notice that that came from all over my apartment. I've got a few of these all over my apartment. And that's one great feature. And I specifically thought it would be great for my sister to check in on her 3 young boys who may be doing mischievous things in the house. And also when it's time for dinner, what a better way to call for people to come to dinner by making an announcement like that. So it's a great feature, very simple, but pretty basic and good. One of the things that I also think is a nice, quick, easy thing, and this is specifically for household, but if you know somebody else who has this feature enabled on their device, you can actually drop in on somebody. And so what you'll do is you'll tell your product to drop in. So I'm going to try this out now. Computer, drop in on mom and dad.
Did you mean Dad Giles?
Yes. Hello?
Hello.
Can you say that again?
Hello.
Thanks a lot. I just wanted to check in with you. I'm calling from my Dallas Social Toastmasters meeting, and we appreciate you helping us out here to demonstrate what the Echo can do. So thanks a lot, Dad.
Welcome. God bless.
Thank you. Have a good night. Computer, hang up. So that's one other one, and it's an easy feature. So I just talked to my parents in Buffalo, New York by just dropping in. Now, you don't necessarily want to do it to somebody that you don't know very well or intimately, because you can drop in. If they have it enabled, you can drop in and they could be doing anything, saying anything, and you can hear them. There's a little period that happens before it actually allows you to hear, so that they can kind of acclimate themselves, and they'll hear a noise when you drop in. But after about 5 to 10 seconds, it just starts to allow you to hear. So it's something that you want to be sure that you're dropping in on somebody that you know very well. But it's good for household stuff as well. At this point, I want to move into our duty holders. So let's go over our duty holders for the evening, and it starts with our timer, which is yours truly. And my job as timer is to help for us to polish our skills as far as speaking within a specific time frame, and to hone that skill, because there are times in life when we can't just speak forever and ever, unlike some people in our club like to do. But I'm here to help. And for our prepared speeches tonight, we have 2 different time frames, actually kind of 3. We have our first speaker speaking from 3 to 4 minutes. And so at 3 minutes, I'm going to show the green card. At 3.5 minutes, I'm going to show the yellow card. At 4 minutes, I'm going to show the red card, at which point our speaker has 30 seconds to wrap up in order to qualify. The next speaker is actually going to do a speech followed by a Q&A. And the speech is going to be 5 to 7 minutes. So I'll hold the green card up at 5 minutes, yellow card at 6 minutes, red card at 7 minutes. And at that point, well, hopefully he's moving into his Q&A session. And for his Q&A is going to be 2 to 3 minutes. So I'll hold the green card up at 2 minutes, yellow card up at 2.5 minutes, and the red card up at 3 minutes, in which case he has 30 seconds to wrap up in order to qualify. Our table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. You must meet 1 minute. And when you meet 1 minute, I will hold the green card, 1.5 minutes, the yellow card, and at 2 minutes, the red card, in which case you have 30 seconds to wrap up in order to qualify. And finally, our evaluators for the evening and that's going to be 2 to 3 minutes. You will qualify if you reach 1.5 minutes. However, I won't show the green card until you get to 2 minutes. 2.5 minutes, you're going to get the yellow card. And then at 3 minutes, you get the red card, at which point you have 30 seconds to wrap up in order to qualify for winning the best evaluator. So I will do this throughout the meeting as called upon, and I will give the results during those times. We will now go on to our second duty holder, which is our vote counter tonight. That is our facilitator, Mr. Mark Schroeder. Mark, can you tell us what your duty as vote counter is tonight?
Thank you so much, Rob. I'm just curious, do we also get a red card if we happen to do a personal foul, or is that merely in soccer?
Yes, I think there's a yellow and then a red. Isn't there?
A yellow and a
Like
red,
that.
as I recall, yeah. All right, so my job tonight is going to be the vote counter, which means that we have, for tonight, we have multiple speakers. And so we're going to have contested races for both speakers and evaluators. That means that there will be a vote for those as well as for the tabletop, best table topics. You're going to take your votes and not place them in the cups that are in front of you, because if you do, the votes are probably going to get very, very wet. What you're going to do instead, of course, is use the chat window. In the chat window, it probably says everyone. If you click the pull down, you'll get a list of the individual people, and you will send your votes to me, Mark Schroeder. Your votes will not, unfortunately, be anonymous, but it's the best we can do. The other thing is, of course, if there's a tie, I'm going to be the tiebreaker. I will not tell you that there was a tie and that I had to break it, because if I do, I disclose my vote, and I'm not supposed to disclose my vote any more than I disclose yours. So that's going to be my role as vote counter, and I'll announce the results at the end of the meeting. Rob.
Thank you very much, Mark. Our next duty holder for the evening is our posture monitor, and that is by chance, Kim Crandall, who came in and is taking over that duty. Kim, can you give us the description of your duty as posture monitor this evening?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We spend a lot of time in Toastmasters on the verbal presentation, and that's certainly very important. But just as critical, and in fact, even more important, is the visual, the nonverbal, the physical presentation, how you come across using your body as part of your speech. So I will be looking for anything that is distracting, that is not part of your presentation, anything that would draw unnecessary draw to you that shouldn't really be there in your presentation. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Kim. We appreciate you taking that role. The next duty holder for the evening is our counter, and that is Mr. Mark Sims. Mark, can you please give us your description of the duty that you'll be partaking in this evening?
As counter, I'll be listening for crutch words, filler words, you know, excessive so's, something that detracts from the quality of your communication. I will make notes of that and then will make a report when called upon by the general evaluator.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate that. Our last duty holder for the evening is our grammarian, and that is Mr. Lee King. Lee, can you please give us your description for the duty that you're holding this evening?
Yes, a grammarian has two roles. First, I'll be listening to the English language and taking notes of particularly good uses of the English language and awkward uses of the English language. My second duty is to introduce the word of the day, which, given today's theme, I think that we'll go for a little bit of a challenge. We have no new members here, so this will be, I think, a healthy challenge for everybody. And that will be, we will use the word of the day, Amazon. Definitely fits the theme, but that means that when during tabletop topics, somehow you're going to have to talk about your experience with Amazon. And that's pretty much my role. I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Lee. Appreciate that. Before we move on to our prepared speeches, I want to go over a couple of other things that Echoes can provide. One of the features that I really like and that I've used before, I've actually used it for a humorous speech that I did a couple of years ago. And it's a customizable thing called blueprints. And it allows you to actually type up and feed your Echoes or whatever your Echo product is with certain phrases and questions and responses. And that way you can use those moving forward. And it allows you to do a few of those things, which I'm going to be showing off this evening, but it also allows you to do other things like similar things that are specifically for pet sitting or babysitting, where you can put in information that the pet sitter or the babysitter might actually need to know, and they can just ask whatever the Echo product is that you have instead of calling you or texting you, and it'll always be there, and you can have it there for them indefinitely until you take it off, and then you can adjust it if you need to adjust it and add to it and add things to it and have a list of things so you can ask, Alexa, what is or where is the dog's leash? Or Alexa, where are the diapers? Things like that. And you can have that information already there, and they can just ask and they can get that information. So you can put a lot of the basic stuff in there for your pet sitter or your dogs or your babysitter. So it's very handy in that regard. One of the other things that I found just recently was kind of neat, and I tweaked it a little bit, was something that they call burns, which has to do with roasting somebody. And so I entered a few things in, and of course, for me, it's a little self-deprecating, which it really kind of should be, but I don't know how you can twist it. Maybe if you have other people living with you, then you can kind of tweak it to get to them as well. But if you hear something here, I'm going to demonstrate what I did. Computer, roast me.
Timer's cramp is a real thing when you speak. Still feeling good about yourself? Say bring it to hear more.
Bring it.
Does Jeff Bezos have you on payroll? I'm on a roll. Say give me that tough love for more.
Give me that tough love.
We're implementing a mute button for your next speech. Say hurt me so good for more.
No thanks.
Sure, be a wimp. Once you get over it, come back for more.
So that's a neat little feature that I found. But again, it probably is only handy if you have more than one person in your living space, unless you want to just mess around with yourself. But it's a cool little feature. Another feature is something that I actually want to show you before we move into, actually, I'll wait. I'll do it after the prepared speeches. Let's go ahead and move into the prepared speeches at this point. This will actually give me an opportunity to use my Echo again. However, I'm going to ask at this point for our evaluator of the first speech. So that would be Mark Sims evaluating Mr. John Vessels. Mark, can you tell us a little bit about John's speech project this evening?
John's speech is titled A Total Surprise. Its time is 3 to 4 minutes. And this is a project on delivering social speeches. It's a two-part project, and this is the first part. And the purpose is to get practice in delivering a social speech in front of club members. And we find out what type of social speech it is, but a social speech can be a eulogy, it can be a toast, for example. And what I'll be listening for is how well organized, how well delivered the speech is, and if the content is appropriate. I don't know if that means mature or if it just means well delivered, but we will find out. So please help me welcome.
If you could let me do that part, I would appreciate that.
Oh, the appropriate content? Okay.
No, the introduction.
Okay, did you want to do it or me
Yes,
go?
please, let me do it. Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I should say let me do it, but it's actually going to be this little
Oh, awesome.
happy thing here. So, computer, please introduce our first speaker.
Please help me welcome John Vessels with his speech, A Total Surprise, A Total Surprise, John Vessels.
And John,
Good evening.
please make sure that you have your timer, Rob Giles pinned.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I got a total surprise recently. A couple of weeks back on payday, I was on vacation, but I went online to check on my paycheck and make sure it hit the bank. And I was flabbergasted when I found out that my check was twice the size it normally is. Now, you'd think that would be a pleasant surprise. But then it always brings up, where did this come from? Did they pay me out my PTO and I'm gone? Or is it just a mistake and someday they'll catch it and try to pull it back from me, which will probably be at an inconvenient time? Well, I called my director, Kathy, and sure enough, she said, no, that's correct. You got a bonus. It's like, oh, okay, great, thanks. So I was off spending money. Actually, I didn't spend it that day. But anyway, now I came to work and just came to our monthly town hall, and I'm caught with a total surprise again. The president of the hospital that I recently brought online from a purchase and put over into our time and labor system got up there, and he was from a different hospital, so it was really confusing why Jeff was there. But Jeff goes into his little speech and awards me with his Outstanding Performance Recognition Award. Now, being the Toastmaster that I am, when they called me down to speak, here I am. So I wanted to first thank Jeff for the recognition and all the extra money that they gave me, which was shocking. I didn't know anybody gave that much money in any of our recognition, so I thought it was great. But I went on and we bought this hospital, and I had to go in and transition everybody from their current time and labor system into our time and labor system and train them. And I had to do all this in 30 days. Now, I went and did it, and we were very successful about it. But to hear Jeff talk, I did it all by myself. And I did a lot of it by myself, but not all of it. I couldn't have done it all by myself. I had to have a lot of help, especially at a hospital. I didn't know a soul. I'd just go in and was at a loss part of the time. But their staff, especially Evie, was one of the administrative assistants for the president. She arranged all the training rooms, lined up all the people, made everybody show up when they were supposed to be in training. And she kept me moving, and I didn't have to worry about who was there. I did all my programming in the evenings at night because I didn't have time to take care of it during the day. And she kept me going and flowing, and we got everybody done. And she was an absolute big help, and she was one of those people that made me look so successful. Now, another person, that helped me a lot was Jeff's assistant. Her name was Sue, and Sue managed to get all the food, all the stuff lined up so that everybody could come to our conference calls. I mean, a lot of my meetings were individualized training. Some of my sessions were big group trainings where I had to present to the entire facility and all the managers and supervisors and administrators. And without those two people, we could not have accomplished what we did at that facility. And I'm very proud of it. And I'm deeply pleased and appreciative of this award. It is all a total surprise to me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, John. At this point, I want to bring in our evaluator for our second speaker. And our second speaker is Lee King. Karen, can you tell us about Lee's project?
The purpose of Lee's speech is to learn and practice facilitating a question and answer session. And he's to practice delivering an informative speech and running a well-organized question and answer session. He's also he's responsible for managing his time so that there's adequate opportunity for both his speech and his question and answer session. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate that. At this point, I'm going to ask computer, please introduce our second speaker.
Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Lee King with his speech titled History of OT. History of OT. Lee King.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and our guest for this evening. Today, I will share with you a brief history of my job or my field, occupational therapy. A lot of people often wonder what occupational therapy does. And in today's term, it's very simple. I probably spend about 80% of the time in the bathroom and the other 20% of the time in a therapy gym, because the focus seems to be on helping people with basic needs. And working in nursing home and hospital, the basic needs a lot of times seems to be going to the restroom. But the field of occupational therapy actually is quite diverse, and it does go much beyond that. And I thought I would share that with you all this evening. So occupational therapy actually formally started back in 1917. So we're a little over 100 years old. And the field actually started out from a mental health and psych background. Nothing to do with the physical body to a large extent. It was designed to help people become functional in society. And more specifically, occupational therapy was based and housed out of the different insane asylums throughout the world, really. And that's where most of our patients came from. It was to help give them something to do with their time at their abilities. From there, the profession really began to focus on crafts and becoming able to do different activities. And so it was not uncommon to work on basket weaving, painting, a number of other craft activities. And back in the day, if you went to occupational therapy school, you actually had to take a class in basket weaving, a class in metalwork, several different art classes. Not so much today. Today, the curriculum is pretty much combined into one class that talks about a bunch of different crafts and how to adapt it to different disabilities. But the physical disability aspect of occupational therapy started back right around World War II, when a lot of soldiers were injured and could not go back out to the battlefield. And at that point, it was the focus was shifting to helping the soldiers learn how to walk again, how to be able to dress if they lost a limb, how to take care of themselves. And then finally, what can they do when they leave the hospital? And that's where more activities began to become a focus. And a real sense of the true meaning of occupation became the main focus, was to help soldiers return to work, find something that they could do for paid money. A few years later, decades later, then the focus once again shifted to what a lot of people will see as an occupational therapist today, which is focusing on bathing, dressing, grooming, and helping people return to just functional activities that they do within their house. Cooking is another activity that occupational therapy spends quite a bit of time on. And yes, actually, back in the day, if you were in occupational therapy school, you had to take a cooking class as well. So you can see that our history is very diverse. We focus on a wide variety of things, and we continue to do so today. One particular very interesting field of occupational therapy that a lot of people don't even think about as being occupational therapy is driving. Driving is considered an occupation because if you have to go to work, most people have to drive to get there. Or if they're going to have a social life, they have to drive to get there. Of course, right now during COVID-19, that's a little different because there are fewer people on the road, fewer people going places. However, that has created a very interesting situation that I will spend just the last couple of moments on my speech talking about, and that is social isolation and helping people find leisure activities. Because when you're quarantining in the house, all of a sudden the chores go away as you've finished them briefly, and you have more time on your hands. And you're back trying to find something to do with your time, which I find very interesting because as I reflect on this whole profession and the history of the profession, I find it ironic that the very first thing that occupational therapy focused on was helping people find leisure activities, make sense of their world in a confined environment. And that's what a lot of us are doing here today with COVID-19. So in many ways, in the 102 years that the profession has been around, in some ways, I feel like we've made a full circle. I'll now take a few questions and answers. Mark?
Can you explain, because I've never quite understood, what is the difference between an OP and a PT?
So occupational therapists really focus on activities of daily living, functional activities, and PT really focuses on strengthening. The best example I can give is going back to the bathroom. The occupational therapist will help you in the restroom, but the physical therapist will help you get to the restroom. Do I have any other questions? Rob?
Lee, a couple of things that I found interesting was the helping out with the veterans or the soldiers, and eventually that came around to helping them get back to work. And it actually, in a sense, is strange because it's getting back to work, but it created work for therapists. And it created that field, that genre, which was created from that situation, which is interesting to me. But really, my question actually goes into what you talked about after that, and when you were talking about things that the therapists have to go through in school, and you talked about taking a cooking class, which who would have thought? But then you think about that and you think, well, what other classes might somebody have needed to take or should have taken? So my question to you is, did you take a cooking class? If not, were there other classes that were similar that you needed to take? Or if none of those, was there something that you felt could have benefited you or the entire field by taking another class of some sort?
When I was in school, they condensed it down to one class that covered all the activities. Oh, different types of crafts. So everything from cooking to actually doing things on computers as far as graphic design and things like that. Woodwork, metalwork, a number of different activities. And that's actually one of my favorite classes to teach when I teach in the OT program, is just the history behind each of the different crafts that occupational therapy did, and then how to fit that craft to the individual person, make it unique to them. That I will now go ahead and wrap this up. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me after the meeting. Thank you. Back to Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lee. Greatly appreciate that. That was interesting and informative. At this point, I will call on myself for a timer's report. And I will let everybody know that both speakers qualified on time. And just to bring more clarity to that, John, you qualified, you reached 4 minutes and 21 seconds. And Lee, for both your speech and your Q&A, your speech was 6 minutes and 10 seconds, and your Q&A 2 minutes and 28 seconds. So you qualified in both of those ranges. So at this point, I'm going to ask for everybody to go ahead and send your vote for the best speaker this evening to our vote counter, Mr. Mark Schroeder. Send that to him in private chat, and he will go ahead and tally up those votes. Please, everybody vote. It's very important. And also, if you have any comments regarding either of the speeches that go to the speakers, please send them private messages with your positive feedback or any comments that you may think that may help them to tweak or improve upon the speech. At this point, I'd like to actually ask Mark Schroeder to go ahead and mute yourself if you could, because I'm going to show another feature that echoes have. So I see that he's muted. Computer.
Last time it shows Mark Schroeder's phone. Should I call there again?
Yes.
Calling Mark Schroeder's mobile.
Angelo's Pizza. What can I get you?
Can you give me a large pepperoni, mushroom, and onion? And
Oh, you want the PMS?
yeah.
Pepperoni, mushroom, and sausage. Yes, sir. We can do
A
that.
little marinara on the side, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Would you like some garlic bread to go with that?
I'm going to hang up on you at this point. Computer, hang up. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate you helping out with that. So you can actually call, if you have a contact listed, you can actually call them from your Echo device. And that can be handy, especially if your hands are not free. So it's some great features that we have. There's one more feature that I wanted at least begin at this point. I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll get back to it a little bit later in the meeting, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And hopefully you can see the agenda for the evening. If everybody wants to nod their head, they can see that. Good, excellent. So I'm going to go to Alexa Blueprints, and this is what I was talking about earlier. But what I'm going to do is actually go in, and you're going to see a long list of my actual skills, for lack of a better term, that I put in there, the questions. And I can go in here and I can edit these, or I can add to them. And you'll see, like I said, a long list here. And a lot of these were left over from the humorous speech that I was attempting to do a couple of years ago. And then some are directly from what I was doing today. But I can add something, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So you'll see there, hopefully you can see it. Hopefully it's big enough for you. And let me see if I can actually increase that. That's not good. So let me go back there.
You know, it was good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
It's
but right
fine.
now it's back to where it was. So
It's still fine. at least for me.
size wise, you're able to see it, is what you're saying, which is, I appreciate that. So I'm going to scroll down here. and I'm going to add a Q&A. And let's say, who won the ribbons for today? How about for tonight? And what you can do on this is you can actually put in different verbiage so that if you don't remember the exact question, you can state it in a different way, and you can do up to 4 of these for each of them. So I could say, who were the winners for tonight? Of course, you want to spell it right and put correct pronunciation or punctuation. And you can do, like I said, 4 of these. So if you're afraid that you might say a word differently or use a different word, then you may want to incorporate that in some of the options. And then if you move down, you can move it down to what the response is going to be by your Echo device. And in this case, we're going to say, how would I know am I a crystal ball? So we're going to put that in there. I'm going to go ahead and update, and that's going to go ahead and update my list and update everything for me. And because this can sometimes take longer, and partly because it depends upon how many of those question and answers you have in your list. And as you saw, I have quite a few. So I'm going to let this work. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to go and move on to the next part of our meeting. And I'm going to actually ask my Echo device to go ahead and help us with that. So, computer, please introduce our topics master.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, we will now move on to the next portion of our meeting, table topics. Please help me to welcome our topic master for the evening, Mr. Dagan Newland.
Thank you, computer. All right, so whereas for table topics, it comes to a section where I will be asking questions, and you have 1 to 2 minutes to respond to those questions. Remember, you must hit at least 1 minute, and then again you have to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So you have to be within that time frame to qualify, and also you must use the word of the day, which I have right up here just for you. So right there, obvious for you, Amazon. Now, I know it's the name of a major retail company, but if you want to use it in any other context of Amazon, such as, is it Amazon River? It's a fabled tribe of female warriors. It's also referred to a tall, powerful, aggressive woman. And also, it's also several different types of green parrots of the genus Amazonia. So you can use it in any of those contexts, and I will take it as the word of the day. So just be aware. I just want to give more people more chances of using it, but most of my questions are tech related, so you'll probably end up using it as the retailer in that case. So actually, first of all, who in here has an Amazon Echo type of device? That's just 2 of y'all? Okay. Well, I'll see Rod did. I knew he did, but because he was talking about it. But I just want to see who else had one. I have one myself. I actually have the Echo, and I have 1 dot, and I have another dot that's still in the box. I just haven't opened yet. But anyway, so remember, questions are 1 to 2 minutes, and must use the word of the day, Amazon. So my first question is going to be, what is your favorite piece of technology and why? John Vessels.
And a reminder, make sure that Rob Giles, your timer, is visible to all participants. John, you are on mute.
All right. My favorite piece of technology is something I did buy from Amazon, and that is my GoPro. I'm up at 7 now, and we've got Echo. The GoPro now goes all the way to 9, but everything I can do on my 7 has been like increased some in the 9, but it's not anything worthwhile for me to upgrade again. I don't get to use my GoPro all that much, especially being in, I don't say quarantine, in COVID life, because I rarely get to go anyplace. I have a dash cam on my car, records everything out there when I'm driving. I don't get out and do many adventures or anything right now, or go to on my cruises or going touring or anything. So there's not much to use on my GoPro right now. But I do have it. I like it very much. And Amazon is one of my favorite places to shop because I can sit on the sofa and buy stuff and they just bring it to me. And they've got everything from A to Z, and it would take you 20 times as long to search stores to find some of the things that you can find in 5 minutes on Amazon. Back to you, Dagan.
Thank you, John. Now I saw Deepika come up in here. Deepika, would you like to do table topics? Deepika? Well, I can hear her.
We see you are off mute, but we are not hearing you yet.
All right, guess I can't hear you. If you're trying to say something, Deepika, we can't hear you. So I'm going to move on to my next question. And that question is going to go to Mark Schroeder. And the question is, what do you like to do most with your Echo device?
What do I like to do most with my Echo device? Well, I can promise you it's not self-deprecating incidents where I'm having it abuse me. That's definitely not on my list. I think the most interesting one is I've got a stereo that is in my office near my Amazon Echo, at least one of them. I've got a regular Echo, the Generation 1, and I've got one of the newer Dots. And of course, they're Bluetooth connected. I got a stereo in here, which has wired speakers to the outside on my patio. And they're wired because, well, they needed to be wired. They're outdoor speakers and intended for that purpose. So I couldn't get them to work with each other. And I managed to buy a Bluetooth receiver to hook into my stereo. So what I can now do is I can come in and tell my Echo to turn on the patio Bluetooth and use my stereo, and then have my Echo give me whatever I want in the way of music. I can just go to the Amazon Music Store, or even better, I can go to Sirius. That's another alternative. I pay for Sirius, so I can have it broadcast on my Sirius channels. Now, at the moment, I'm not a subscriber to a lot of the Amazon Music. I don't have everything that's in their catalog. I am a member of Amazon Prime, so I do have a certain amount of access. But on the other hand, there have been a couple of things. I wanted to play Rammstein, I believe, the other day. And Rammstein is apparently still a pay song or a pay album. But that's probably one of the things that I've liked the best. And I got to use it a lot during the summer because I was able to have my Echo in my office talk over Bluetooth to my stereo in my office to broadcast music onto my patio while I was at my pool. That's been the most interesting and most fun use that I've made of my Echo so far. Dagan?
All right, thank you, Mark. All right, Munish, would you like to have a table topics?
We shall see. I do not see if he has a mic. Munish, do you have a mic tonight? He may be listen only tonight.
Yes, all right. So, all right, then we'll move on. Then my next question is going to be, what piece of technology that you wish was still around? Mark Sims.
I don't know, because I've retained all the old technologies that I liked. I actually still have a record player and still have some of the albums and the 45s that I had bought when I was growing up. Never play them because I listen to or watch the videos and listen to songs on YouTube all the time. And then also enjoy the new technology where I can buy old CDs, things like that from Amazon. And so I have a mixture of old technologies and dipping my toe into the water of enjoying the new technologies. I'm always a slow adopter when it comes to new technologies, but hey, I'm getting there. About the only one I can think of that I totally can't have is used to, my car would have a where you could play a little cassettes of songs, and that technology is pretty well gone now. I don't even have anything to play them on, and I don't even had to throw all of them out because the ribbons on the tapes were all breaking. So that's a story of my life, enjoying new technologies eventually, but it takes me a while to get there. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Mark. Topeka, would you let's try you again? Would you like to do table topics?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
You're
Yeah,
a
we can hear you now.
little quiet, but yes.
All right. So Topeka, just try to speak up. Then, so the question to you is, are you a technology buff? Tell us why or why not.
I'm a technology buff. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. Yeah, if you can hear me, I can start. Okay. Yes, I think so. I like to use a lot of things which has smart technologies, starting from my watch to my phone. I think because it's cool. Can you hear me? Okay. I think it's because it's cool to have some smart devices which are much more advanced, and also these devices normally help us to optimize our time and optimize our time. For example, I do have Amazon Alexa Echo, which is one of my favorite product as well. It always helps me to remind whatever I ask her to remind me. And also there are a lot of other cool features which Rob has mentioned. Some of them it can do. It's the third generation one. And also I have a Fitbit Versa watch. It also helps me to keep myself fit and also track all my steps and my heartbeat and so on. So I think if you ask me if you're a technology buff, yes, I am a technology buff, and I like to use all the smart technology devices. Of course, in future, if at all possible, I would like to have a smart home where I can entirely configure my entire house full of smart technologies. Thank you, Degan.
You're on mute, Dagan.
All right, sorry. All right, thank you, Topeka. I'm glad you joined tonight. So that's going to conclude my section of the table topics meeting. And so I will call for a timers report first. Did everybody qualify on time?
Mr. Topic Master, all contestants qualified on time.
All right, and Grammarian, did everybody use the word of the day?
I do not believe I heard Mark Sims use the word of the day or Topeka.
Yeah.
I used it, Lee. I made reference to buying things from Amazon.
Yeah, and Topeka said it too. So yes, I heard her say it too.
Yeah.
But then everybody used the word of the day. Sorry.
Trying to work in something there about Amazon women, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
All right, so please make your private chat to Mark Schroeder for who you thought did the best table topics between John with his favorite piece of technology and why, And then Mark Sims talked about a piece of technology they wish was still around, although he's kept all his stuff. And what Mark Schroeder did most with his Echo device, and talked about being technology buff to Pika. So remember, if you vote for one of the marks, make sure you put out the last name as well, so there'll be no confusion there. And also, when it comes to Echo, I've named mine computer as well. I like saying computer, but I wish you could actually have the option of putting something else in there to name it for a wake up word. If they did that, I think it'd be even that much better. But so that concludes my section, and I will move now back to Rob Giles, our Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Dagan. First, I want to go back to the question and answer that we added in while we were here on our meeting, and that was computer. Who were the winners for tonight?
How would I know? Am I a crystal ball?
So as you can see, it works. It's fairly quick. Obviously, we need all the table topics time in order for that to complete processing and be ready to use. It actually will normally complete within a minute in order to be ready to use. And you can go back in, like I said, you can adjust those things. So it's very handy and it's very neat. And there's a lot of other skills that you can add to it. Like Mark mentioned, like Deepika mentioned, there's a lot of things that you can do with your Echo products. One of the things that Mark said was music. I have all of my devices all linked together in one group so that when I ask it to play a song, it's playing it throughout the entire apartment, so I can walk from room to room and I'm still hearing it on the different devices, which is really handy, especially if you're listening to something that's news driven or something like that, so you don't miss anything when you go from room to room. So at this point, although there's many things to talk about, I'm going to leave it to you. Hopefully, if you don't have an Echo device, then you're possibly thinking about going to get them. They actually have ones that are smaller, even than the Dot, that's called Echo Input. It doesn't have a speaker. You connect it to a Bluetooth speaker, and then you're set. But that's probably the least expensive. And I want to say during the holidays, you can probably get that for about $15 to $20, somewhere in there. So look for that if you're interested in getting something. And the Dots do come down during the holidays as well. So it's a handy thing. Go ahead, Dagan.
I just want to say that the input, that sounds pretty cheap, but if you have to connect it to a Bluetooth speaker, a good Bluetooth speaker costs a amount of money, so you might as well just buy the Dot. It'd be probably about the same price.
True. That's absolutely true. But if you already have a Bluetooth speaker, then you're already in your, and that goes back to whether you're a technology person or you're not really, and that will probably determine whether you already have one or not. I had Bluetooth speakers long before I had my Echo products. So for me, that's old hat, but you are absolutely correct. So you got to weigh those things in if you're going to do that. So at this point, I'm going to ask one more question of this baby right here. I'm going to say, computer, please introduce our general evaluator for the evening.
Thank you. Let's move to the evaluation portion of our meeting. Please help me to welcome our general evaluator for tonight, Mr. Mark Schroeder.
Thank you, computer, and Rob. All right, so as mentioned, I'm going to be the general evaluator for this evening, in addition to being your meeting facilitator. While I'm the general evaluator, should you need anything, please see Rob Giles, because he is our co-host. As general evaluator, I have several duties tonight. I'm going to be calling on both of our speech evaluators. We had 2 speeches, so we have 2 evaluators. And of course, I'm going to be getting duty holders reports from our duty holders on how we did on our, hate to say minor, but minor duties in comparison with actually having a larger speaking role. And I will be giving an evaluation of the meeting as a whole at the end of everything. With that, we will go ahead and start. Our first speaker of the evening was John Vessels. John's evaluator for this evening is Mark Sims. if you would please welcome Mark Sims with his evaluation. Mark.
Thank you. John, for starters, early on in your speech, you got our attention because it's somewhat of a fantasy to get a paycheck way bigger than what you're entitled to. Kind of similar to checking your balance at an ATM and finding out you're a millionaire when you're not. And then usually on your paycheck, it's like you're correct, it's a mistake. So it's a mirage, but it's a fun mirage. We all think about those things, and it doesn't really happen all that much, but it happened to you. You used some good expressive words to spice up your speech. You weren't just surprised, but you were flabbergasted at the extra high paycheck. Another time you used the word shocking to describe your feelings. So it's good to kind of reach out of one's normal word usage to use a very good expressive vocabulary. The use of names when discussing your supervisors and your coworkers was very helpful also. I know, or we all know, that Jeff is the president of the hospital, that Jeff's assistant is Sue, and Evie helped you on some of your work. And the significance of that is president or assistant is more sterile, but when you talk about Jeff or Sue or Evie, we can almost imagine these people. I mean, we're probably imagining them a lot different from how they actually come across or look like, but it helps us to visualize. And then you were very gracious in sharing your credit, and that's more than modesty, that is just great leadership. What you can work on, and this is just what I heard, but I kind of got your speech was a little bit of a blend, with some of it was telling the club about these events, and some of it was kind of like you were talking to us when you were receiving your accolades and receiving your notice. I couldn't quite tell. At first it sounded like you were telling us about the event from maybe in a past tense, and then near the end more like you were live receiving your award. To challenge yourself, maybe you could conclude with, and based on this amazing recognition I'm so proud of, I'm going to redouble my efforts to achieve even more for the company. Maybe a little bit of suck up, but hey, it's maybe a good way to end your remarks. And congratulations on the bonus. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mark Sims. All right, our second evaluator of this evening, actually, at this point, we sort of have a pair of Lees, because Karen Lee is going to be evaluating Lee King's speech, which means I definitely do not want to say Karen Lee, Lee King, Karen Lee. No, none of that. Not going to do that. But Karen will be evaluating Lee's speech. Karen, if you would, please go ahead and do your evaluation of Lee this evening. And you're on mute, please.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Lee, I'm going to say several things that Lee excelled at during his speech, and talk about a few things that he can do better. Lee, your speech was very clear and easy to understand. You also did appear very, very comfortable with your audience. You were also very comfortable and with the content. I think you said that you had spoken at the school or taught at the school. So you were very comfortable and knew your content very well. And the content was also interesting. I was not aware of the history of occupational therapy. You also did engages with effective eye contact to engage the audience. You responded very, very well to the questions that the audience had. And that your time management was very, very effective. You may want to work on using different vocal variety in your speech. For example, speaking loud and soft, slow, fast during your speech. Challenge yourself. You may want to use more hand gestures in your speech. But just to recap, your speech was very clear and easy to understand. You're very comfortable with your audience. You may want to just use a little bit more vocal variety, and you may consider wanting to use some hand gestures in your speech. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. All right, at this point, we've got two of our evaluators, each of who has evaluated one of our speeches tonight. I need to get a timers report for our evaluators before we do a vote. Timer, Rob, how did we do on the times tonight for the evaluators?
Mr. General Evaluator, both evaluators qualified on time. Mark Sims at 3:05 and Karen at 2:20.
Excellent. So that makes both of our evaluators eligible for a vote. If you would, I happen to be the vote counter. Go ahead and send your vote for the best evaluator tonight to me. And again, just recounting the two evaluators for Mark Sims, who evaluated John Vessels, and Karen Lee, who evaluated Lee King. Give everybody just a moment to drop those into the chat to me. All right, just another moment, and then we'll start the duty holders. All right, looks like enough have come in that I can go ahead. If you have not voted yet, feel free to continue and vote. At this point, we're going to do the duty holders reports. I'm going to start with our posture monitor this evening. Our posture monitor was picked up by Kim Crandall. Kim, tell us how people did on posture tonight.
I did not see anything that was distracting this evening as far as posture. I did notice, and it enhanced every presentation. Everybody did such a great job this evening on their eye contact. Being able to see you direct, look in the eye, and everybody did, our speakers, the evaluators, our table topics, everyone did such a great job of doing eye contact this evening. I just wanted to make a special note of that. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Kim. Our next duty holder is the awe counter. Our awe counter this evening was Mark Sims. Mark, how did we do on awe counters and other verbal crutches?
Pretty good night overall. I did note that Rob, early on when he was discussing Alexa, worked in a you know, and he started a few sentences with so's. Dagan worked in a you know when describing the table topics duty. Started a few sentences with so, had some ums. And then Deepika, please forgive me, hadn't seen you in a few years, but I noted a few in your remarks. So that's all I have. And by and large, it was a pretty good performance on the group on crutch words. Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you so much, Mark. Finally, our last duty holder to hear from tonight is our grammarian, and that is Lee King. Lee, how did we do on our grammar tonight?
I have a very cogent report, as I did not hear any real egregious uses of the English language, and I didn't really pick up on anything that was particularly outstanding that really stood out. So, very short report this evening. Everybody did really well.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, so we've done the evaluations of our speeches. We have done the duty holders report. So now it's time for me to give a general evaluation of the meeting. I want to start with, we started mostly on time. We certainly had everybody that was a member of our meeting that had a role tonight here on time, and that's excellent. There were many times that did not happen. So we appreciate you showing up on time so that we can get started as early as possible. I probably took 1 or 2 minutes after the hour myself as facilitator getting everything ready, but we did start largely on time. With regard to our Toastmaster, I thought it was a very interesting theme. He had something that he needed to coordinate with me with regard to the phone call that happened from, well, rather to Angelo's Pizza. And so he called me before the meeting and made sure that we made arrangements to know that that was going to happen. I suspect he probably did the same thing with his dad with regard, yep, there we go, he's shaking his head. So he did a lot of prep for this, and that really made it work very, very well. I thought all the demos were very good, and they all came off pretty flawlessly, in my opinion. So that was really exceptional. With regard to our table topics, Dagan, I thought that your questions were very, very good with regard to the questions that you were asking tonight. And what a shame that we couldn't actually get the word of the day anywhere in view at the same time so that we could all see it. Thought that was brilliant, actually. It's interesting, and while we're on Zoom, we may want to consider moving the word of the day duty to the table topics person for just that reason. It allows you to do that. Otherwise, you have to have 2 windows, one for the word of the day and one for the timer. But I thought that worked out amazingly well. Rob, also going back to yours, the continued introductions being done by computer were very, very nice. So that was really good. We had 2 speeches tonight. I always love it when you have 2 speeches. I thought both of the speeches were very well prepared. The speakers were very smooth and pretty flawless. They were obviously, both speakers were obviously very well prepared. Lee, just one piece of feedback. I really love the way you managed to do the full circle thing, that it had started in a particular place and it had, because of COVID, effectively gone full circle back into the same spot. So that was pretty amazing. With regard to our evaluators, a couple of comments for you, because this is about the only time that I'm going to be able to give you feedback on your performance, and you may get a few comments in the chat, but this is primarily a lot of the feedback that you will get. Mark Sims, your comments about Jeff and Evie and all of the persons in his speech and having a good way to visualize them, I thought that was very specific and good. And I also like the way that you mentioned the way that he had shared credit, and that showed good leadership. It wasn't just mentioning that he did it, but it was an implication of that being great leadership. I also noticed that because there have been many things that I've worked on in the past with other people. And even if I did most of the work, I am very careful with them and with the people around us as we're talking about it to refer to it as we accomplished this, not I accomplished this, regardless of what percentage the other people worked on. And that has always been one of the ways of having nobody feel like the work was taken away from them. So I thought that was a very good and astute comment. Karen, I also liked the comments that you might have liked to see just a little bit more vocal variety. And I also appreciated the fact that you started with, or not started, but in the middle, said that you wanted to challenge him. You wanted to challenge him to use more hand gestures, which is a little difficult on Zoom, of course, especially with as close as some of these cameras are of necessity. Not every camera has got the same zoom ratio on it as, for instance, if you compare them the size of my face with Lee's. That's just a camera difference and positioning more so than anything else. So it makes it a little easier for me to get my hands up than it does for Lee, but it would be good to challenge. And let's see, what else did I have here? Also like the fact that you summarized with the 3 points that were the main points that he had covered. The one thing that I would recommend for you, you ended with the last thing that you wanted to see him do. You ended with the challenge. We like to end on a positive. I would have liked to see your summary go back to a positive point. If you finish just because you were running out of time, I'll allow it. But if you happen to have enough time to go back and finish on a positive note, that might have been a plus. At this point, that's going to conclude my remarks as the general evaluator for this evening. I have one more duty to do, just one more duty, and that duty is going to be to call for the best of the big three tonight. And the best of the big three are going to be our Toastmaster extraordinaire tonight, Mark Sims, and his helper computer. And I guess you can kind of vote half a vote for each one if you feel so inclined. For our table topics, which was Dagan Newland, or for myself, Mark Schroeder, as the general evaluator. I also am vote counter, so you're going to be messaging me in private chat with those answers. Rob, do you have anything that you want to do to finish up, or shall we go to the business meeting?
Just one thing, and I want to do this because I think we as a club do a fantastic job, and therefore I do want to echo one more thing, and that would be, computer, which Toastmasters club is the best?
I would say Dallas Social, by far, but don't let your head get too big. It's the best despite you.
And that'll be it for me.
All right. As meeting facilitator, it's now my privilege to introduce our president for this evening with the business meeting. If you would, Mark Sims, take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Rob, that could really be dangerous. I mean, if you got to the point where you couldn't control Alexa, that she was saying whatever she wanted to, or was berating you or ordering you or predicting the future, I mean, you could get something going that you really could not control. So please keep that in mind. And for starters, I would like to recognize our guests. And Deepika, would you just like to tell us what's going on with you these days?
Okay, you're off mute, Deepika. But we're not hearing you yet.
Maybe volume needs to turn up.
Maybe.
On her end.
Yeah, she had adjusted something because we heard her moving something the last time. Deepika, do we have you? Not seeing any mic activity.
Well, we weren't able to hear you now. We did hear you during the table topic. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. Please join as much as you can. And I had heard that y'all are back in India. Is that correct? Well, the gentleman who's also visiting tonight, Mr. Munish Gupta, is from India. So maybe he's your neighbor or something, next door neighbor, or something like that. That'd be an amazing coincidence.
He also shows that he has a mic now if you have any questions for him.
Okay. But thank you, Deepika, and please come back as much as you can and tell Dabu hello also. Hope the baby's doing well. And Munish, do you have any comments to make about your visit?
It's an incredible meeting. Whenever I attend your meeting, Toastmaster meeting, I learn something. And today also it was incredible. And in your club, I have delivered the speeches also 2 to 3 times. And I really enjoy you make my day. I start my day. Today's I attended. No, I was thinking when this meeting will be over, I'll go to the gym. Thank you. Over to the Toastmaster, please.
Thank you again for joining us. I would like to note to the group that obviously we're not going to be meeting next Thursday night on Thanksgiving. We'll resume on December 3rd. And what I'd like to do is after the normal meeting on December 3rd, is to have an officers meeting, and we can make some plans for 2021 around DCP or other things that will be coming up in 2021. So please keep that on your calendar. The 2 weeks go by before we know it, and it'll almost be Christmas the next time we meet after tonight. Think about that. And before we go on to the winners, what other business does anyone have to bring up?
Well, in normal occasions, we have a Christmas party that we go to. Are we gonna have like a online Christmas party? How about that?
We could certainly do something like that, yeah. We would.
I'll bring the cheese ball.
We will only need to pick a date and whether or not we want to do it on a Thursday or some other day. I mean, obviously, the last social event was the Halloween one, and we did that on a Sunday night. I don't know what people prefer.
I say stick with tradition, and then we used to have it during a meeting night.
Yeah,
so
we did. Okay.
Halloween was actually on a Friday.
Halloween was on Halloween, but not the Halloween social thing. Did I do that on a Friday?
Okay, I don't. Maybe
No.
I didn't attend. Maybe
I did it on November 1st. Whenever November 1st was, I was one day late because I didn't want to do it on. That was a Sunday because the 31st was the 31st was a Saturday.
Okay, so maybe I didn't make that one.
Right.
We could have that on December 17th, which would be the, I guess, final, not meeting night, but it would be the final meeting prior to the Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve. And I guess if anyone wanted to bring food or drink, that you would just have to have it at your own home, obviously. Hopefully you don't eat too much and have like food crumbs on your chin or whatever. But yeah, definitely we could celebrate, and that'd probably be the best we can do in this difficult year. But we could at least keep in the spirit of the season. Good idea.
I suppose the only other question is, how many people already have a Christmas party conflict on December 17th? That's what I figured. Okay, that works for perfect then. Yeah, no, there are no company Christmas parties that people are going to this year that are going to, or personal that are going to conflict probably.
And Rob Munish just sent, he may have sent it to everyone, but he just sent an invitation to be a prepared speaker for next. Well, obviously it would be the week after next on the night of December 3rd, Munish.
Yeah, next week we are off.
Yeah, next week it will be Thanksgiving here in America. So if you're willing on December 3rd, we would enjoy hearing from you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any additional business to bring up?
The only other business that I have is that we are still auditioning replacements for the Yahoo Group email. We have to make a decision by December 15th because that's when the other one gets turned off. We have two that are really close in features and in the top running. If there is anybody that would like to participate in some of the testing because you've had issues with the Yahoo Group and you're wondering if the issues are going to repeat or be worse with these, I'll be more than happy to add you. I know in particular Dagan was failing to receive some of the emails earlier, so we added him to the group of us that are testing it. If you have had issues with the past one or are concerned that you're not getting some of the emails, let me know and we will be happy. I'll be happy to add you to our testing during the next week or so as we make our final decision.
Thank you. And Rob, what was your business to bring up?
I was just going to remind people I do have the member orientation every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay. And thank you for communicating with Mary also about making that available to a broader audience. This time, I'd like to hear from Mark Schroeder on who our winners were.
All right, thank you, Mark. In order of chronology, we're going to start with our speaker tonight. Our best speaker tonight of our 2 prepared speakers was Lee King. Congratulations, Lee.
Thank you.
For table topics, everybody did a very good job on our table topics. Everybody used the word of the day and met time. So tough choice, but our winner tonight was Topeka. Very nice. A nice return. Best evaluator. Best evaluator for the evening will go to Mark Sims. And finally, the best of the big 3. Best of the big 3. Well, it's sort of a tie. The tie goes between Rob Giles and computer. So I guess they're going to have to split that award. But congratulations, Rob. Very nice. That concludes the awards for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. And John, I will email your evaluation to you. Thank you, Deepika, and everyone have a great Thanksgiving. Good night.
Good night.
All
Yeah,
right.
it was supposed to be an acceptance speech.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording in 3, 2,